Hi, Jeremy Crow here. In this video, I'm going to give you a crash course in how to achieve ascension using lucid dreams. So this will make a little bit more sense if you've seen some of my other videos, but I'm going to try not to assume that. I'm going to try and define the terms as we go. Now, I don't have a lot of time here, so let's get right into it. So what I mean by ascension is essentially, in a nutshell, having an immortal, subtle body that doesn't decay, that you can travel the subtle realms, create your own subtle realm or realms, and even being able to manifest a physical body at will, interact in the physical universe, and then dissolve that body whenever you don't need it anymore. So it's extremely powerful position to be in. And some people refer to it as like an ascended master or like Taoist immortal. There's a ton of different words for this. The Merkaba body, the Ascension body, things like that. The resurrection body of Christ, even, some people have said. Now, lucid dreams, how does this play into it? Now, lucid dreams are your training ground because the universe as we know it, including the more dense parts of it, which you might think of as waking life or the physical universe, as well as the more subtle realms, including the things that you would experience when you're dreaming or having an astral projection or out-of-body experience. That's all part of the collective fractal hologram, let's say, or I like to call it the cube. So that's part of the cube. And now we each individually have our own fractal hologram that interfaces with the collective one. So we have our own personal cube, and that is essentially a representation of the collective one, and it interacts. Some people might refer to it as the objective universe and the subjective universe, although there's a lot of baggage that comes along with those. So I like to use words that people aren't as familiar with so you don't associate things automatically to them. So what you're going to do is you're going to practice with your own personal cube so that when the time comes, you'll know what to do when you're in that situation in the collective cube. Hope I haven't lost anybody yet. So when you go to sleep, you experience your physical sense organs being muted, and the data coming in from them gets less utilized by the experience generator in your own mind. So everything that you experience, whether you're awake or you're asleep and dreaming, it's all being generated internally as an experience, a fully immersive, three-dimensional virtual reality in a sense. Now, that is based off of either your physical sense organ data or more subtle stuff, like maybe your memories or even like subtle energies that you are interacting with in the universe. So what's going to happen is the data coming in from your physical sense organs as you're falling asleep, that gets muted, and your own experience generator will at some point just basically shut down, and you'll be in a state where there is no experience. And usually people can't maintain their conscious awareness during that state because we're so used to having that anchor of an experience that when there's no experience, that people just lose consciousness, they swoon. And at some point, there are these swirling colors and patterns that you experience, and the mind starts latching on to different patterns and interpreting them and weaving them into a narrative. And then you get pulled into it, you get caught up in it, and it forms itself into what becomes a dream. And now your experience generator is utilizing non-physical inputs to generate that experience that we call a dream. And that's the same basic thing that will happen when your physical body stops working, i.e., when you die. So the physical sense organs start shutting down, the experience generator shuts off, and usually people just lose consciousness. Now, there are the experience of these subtle energies that will start swirling around. And like I said, you will pick up patterns, and your conscious unit, I don't know what else to call it, your soul, you could say, will start associating itself with these patterns and vibrations and frequencies, and eventually it'll get caught up in it and associate itself with it so much that it gets caught up and it weaves in a full new narrative. And this is when you get trapped back into that cycle of reincarnation. That's when you get pulled into a physical incarnation again. Now you need to stop that process, and what you can do is there's a couple, according to Tibetan Book of the Dead, there are a couple spots at which you can achieve liberation in the bardo. So during that point where there is no experience at all, you can maintain consciousness during that, and if you're able to maintain the ground, some people call it the ground of being, if you're able to maintain that consciousness through that state, then that essentially you pretty much got it. Now, most people aren't able to, because they haven't had the training, the experience, and the practice over and over of doing that, and so usually you just lose consciousness. Now, there's a second chance. Once you start experiencing those swirlings of energy and frequency and such, if you can recognize them as illusory, if you can recognize them for what they are, as part of this matrix that you're being trapped in and recycled through, that you can recognize it at that point. Now, sometimes it's a little too late, and the Buddhists will say that you can at least impact the next incarnation so that you'll have a more favorable incarnation next time. But sometimes if you catch it quick enough, then you can liberate yourself from the cycle right then and there. Now, if you can't, at least you might be able to give yourself a more favorable incarnation, and then next time you'll have a much better shot at it. Now, what does this have to do with lucid dreaming? Well, this is your training ground. You practice with your own internal cube, so that when you experience this in the collective cube, that you'll be able to recognize, oh, I know what this feels like. I know what's going on here. This is part of Maya. This is part of the illusion. This is the matrix I'm still in. And you can become lucid. And that is the key, because when you are lucid, then you understand your position. You understand your situation, at least you understand it much better than you did if you weren't lucid. When you're not lucid, you just assume everything, the reality that you're presented with is genuine, or that you believe that it's solid and physical, and you get enmeshed in it, you get caught up in it, and there you're trapped. So if you're able to maintain lucidity or gain lucidity at some point, then you can either liberate yourself, or at least, like I said, impact the next incarnation so that it's going to be more favorable for you to be able to do this next time. So practice lucid dreaming, get really good at it. Practice dream yogas, and there's this one type of dream yoga or dream alchemy that is referred to in the Tibetan tradition as the dreams of clear light. And this is essentially maintaining consciousness or conscious awareness during deep dreamless sleep, or in those in-between states, between where the experience generator is not active. If you can maintain consciousness during those states, that is the most key. Now, the first step is to gain lucidity during a dream state. The next stage is essentially gaining lucidity while you're awake. And then the third stage, if you can get there, that is where you are maintaining lucidity during those phases where the experience generator is not active. So that right there is how to achieve ascension through lucid dreaming. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do stuff like this all the time. So if you liked it, please subscribe. Share it with your friends. YouTube has been deranking my channel a lot, so I rely on your word of mouth to get these videos out there at this point. And until next time, everybody, stay lucid.